Hello, everyone. My name is Ben with Ben's Appliances and Junk, and this stream is going to be a lot different than any of the other ones that we've ever done, really. On this stream, I have two special guests that are new to the channel, but not new to me, Scott Berger and Matt Murphy. The reason that we are doing this live stream today is that I have been in the background secretly with Scott and Matt doing an appliances podcast called the Appliances Unboxed Podcast for a very long, well, I would say a very long time, actually probably the whole year. And
Feels like a long time.
we're finally like debuting it today. But these guys are some of the smartest in the appliance industry, and I always get tons of questions on the channel when I do my live streams. And I thought we would take some time and just talk appliances for about an hour and a half. So, Scott, what do you do in the appliance industry, and why are you here?
Man, we do a lot of weird stuff. I don't know how to summarize that, but we have an appliance company in Georgetown, Texas. We sell open box, scratch and in appliances. We also wholesale appliances. We sell appliance parts, all sorts of stuff. So we've been around appliances for a really long time. And Matt has breathed a breath of fresh air into the company as well. So Matt, why don't you tell them what you do?
So I manage wholesale sales for New Appliance. I work with small business owners all over the country to help them be successful. It's really introducing the appliance industry with a different flair. So many people are curious about it and want to get into it, but there's very few good sources of information. There's nobody out there that's actually trying to help them. It's all a sales pitch. And that's what we're trying to stop and remove from the industry with what we're doing. My retail career stretches back 14 years with a certain blue and yellow retailer, which not everybody would identify with appliances, but I think we did it pretty well. And when I jumped out of retail sales, I moved to appliance installation. So I was responsible for managing appliance installation in Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey for a national third-party installation company, which was a fascinating experience in and of itself. And now I'm here. So I hope I can bring some unique perspectives to the discussion.
Awesome.
So the cool thing about our podcast that I really like is the unbiased nature of what we get to talk about. Because I feel like out there in the world, there's little hints of bias everywhere, and there's people out there in the world like Ben who do a really good job of providing information in the best possible light, without holding any information back. So we're super excited to be here. And we're glad we can be in the conversation.
Awesome. Yeah, so we have done a lot of episodes already, and we have the chat over on the side. Keep asking questions because we're going to try to answer as many of them as possible through this, because we didn't know how many responses we were going to get. So yes, I see your comments, Nomad. We will get to those for sure. But with the topics that we've covered, how many episodes do you think we've already filmed that are still editing? I don't know. Is there an answer to that?
10, 15, somewhere in that ballpark. We wanted a big queue to where we could drop a lot of consistent episodes out there. But man, we covered so much stuff. Yeah. The one that's out there now, we talked about heat pump dryers and 2-in-1 washer dryer combos, and just the amount of information that you two were able to stuff into that thing in the 45 minutes or whatever it was. I mean, it's so much info. So if you haven't watched that yet, I would definitely go and watch that episode.
Absolutely. And we do have a link to that specific YouTube video. It's not my channel. It's its own brand new channel. There's the link. It's in the comment feed. We're going to have a link in the description and everything to that Appliances Unboxed podcast. It's a 45-minute episode that's already been done. But we are going to continue to have new ones as they come in. So the idea on this is we're just going to, riff on a lot of different questions and answers over the next hour. And well, an hour and a half roughly on just answering any and all the appliance questions you have. So we went over kind of what the Appliances Unboxed podcast is about, and it's literally anything that has to do with appliances from a knowledge point. Whether that is about your heat pump units, whether that's front load versus top load, whether that's induction versus gas. Matt has a ridiculous amount of experience at one of the top 3 retailers in the US. So even though I'm the face of Ben's Appliances and Junk, Matt knows probably a lot more than I do about certain things in the appliance industry, especially when it comes to luxury appliances, because I grew up very poor.
Well, the cool thing for all 3 of our outlooks, number one, I get to play the skeptic because I'm just the old grumpy guy that hates to spend money. So I need to be convinced of what appliances work and how they function. Matt, he's the pitch. He knows everything about the products and their inner workings. And then we have Ben, who's done all these investigations on the appliances and teardown. So you have 3 very unique outlooks on technology and appliances in general. And I don't think that's out there. You just get the pitches. It's just the pitches out there in the world. So it's cool.
Definitely.
And the crazy thing is, like, it's not even just the pitches, because if somebody was making a real pitch, it would be different than what you see so often, which is a very heavy marketing influence without a lot of substance.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're bringing that's different. Even the pitch portion of it is actually backed by some level of fact.
Yep. 100% agree.
I think that the one thing that I remember having done this podcast already, even though we can't, I think, legally show it on the air, but it was when we were at ASTI 2025 and you were getting a pitch from one of the major washing machine companies out there. And it wasn't sales and marketing trying to pitch them to you as kind of like more of a skeptic, Matt, but they were just it was a technician telling you, hey, this is why you should buy this brand. And he was just, and the interesting thing that I remember him saying was he too was having to go after the salespeople because they were over promising things that the design fundamentally couldn't handle. Yeah. And, there was a lot of honesty there. And I'm thinking, if this was the sales guy for this major corporation, you'd probably sell a lot more units in the marketplace, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that happens a lot all across the board. It's because that's the only information that's out there. It's just whatever the pitch is. There's nothing like what you do, Ben, out there that is giving away information. So it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kick off the questions and answer portion, and we've already got, I don't know, like 20 different comments or questions. So they're rolling in and we're going to get to as many as we can. The first one that I had asked on my YouTube channel about Monday when we announced that we were going to do this was the question. And this is probably one of the most common questions that we ever get that's getting overlaid on Matt's face. But it says, I know it's something you talk about in a lot of my videos. And it's one of the biggest questions that many folks have. And there's a few in the chat already that's asked us as well. How do you find appliances that are reliable and affordable? Or what is the best way to research an appliance since reviews can, in fact, be tampered with? I think it would be great to hear from Matt and Scott, and I guess myself, what would be, what kind of conversation can we have there? How do you buy a good appliance today? Matt?
I mean, from my perspective, you cannot buy a reliable appliance. Anybody that sits in a store and tries to tell you that the thing you're shopping for is a reliable product is lying straight to your face. I have lived through every horror story you can imagine, from a $27,000 range, brand new, delivered to a customer's house after waiting 6 months that was completely DOA, and the manufacturer deemed it field scrap, to a customer having a complex lighting system failure in a $15,000 refrigerator, and the design of the appliance was such that you couldn't replace the LED drivers once they had died. And it triggered the replacement of the entire product under an extended warranty. I think it's really hard to make an argument that a certain product is inherently more reliable than another. I think when you're shopping for an appliance, you need to be shopping for fixability. You need to shop for products that have a decent track record and for manufacturers that have a solid track record of acknowledging their mistakes, owning up to them, and accepting that they need to make good on those design errors. I think certain brands do that a whole lot better than others. And I think it's very category dependent. There's a lot of insistence by people on having all the same brand in their kitchen or all the same brand across the house. And I think that's a good idea in some cases because you do want a uniform design aesthetic. But at the same time, it can lead to some really problematic products ending up in your home just for the sake of aesthetics.
Yeah, I could definitely play on the even playing field. I mean, manufacturing in general on appliances across the board, like you'd be surprised how a lot of this stuff is made in the same area or region. There's definitely one-offs, but it used to be that you could pinpoint a brand. You could say, "This is my brand. These guys are super reliable. I can lean on this brand very comfortably." That's kind of gone away over time, and now it's more model dependent too. You see a lot of really high performing models. Like I just saw someone's question in there about GE washers. The top load, what is it? The GTW 465. Like that's one of my favorite washers out there. It's super simple. It's very durable, huge capacity. It has an agitator. Big fan of that. It's just a solid washer. But the whole product line, I don't have experience with all that. So, like I think it all comes down to the model, where each model of the product carries its own value and its own weight. And then exactly what Matt said, that you have to be able to get parts, you have to be able to get service. That's such a critical part of being able to fix something and keeping it running is the parts that you need to fix it. So if you can't find parts, like that makes it kind of hard.
Yeah, and
Or
that's
even if you can find parts, but you can't replace them because it's physically impossible. Because I've been in those situations. It's hilarious, but it's true.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just a different market.
Yeah, and one of the keys there is to understand what's the difference between one model and another. For example, like you said, a GTW 485. There's not really going to be a lot of difference between a GTW 485 and a GTW 325 or a Hot Point 265. They're all going to have the same transmissions, the same drain pumps, the same lid locks. The UI is going to be different. The driver board's going to have a slight variation in it. But in general, the reliability, good or bad, on that model is going to be the same. Most manufacturers out there, even though you can go to any website and see like 10 different designs, it's really 3 base models and then a bunch of lipstick on everything else. And the problem that I see with certain brands, certain models, is that you could have one product that is really, really good from that company, and then one slight variation, but has a different transmission in it, a different control and UI system in it, have a much lower reliability rate on it. And that is, on my end, kind of maddening because I know in the past it's like, oh, yeah, this brand makes really good products. Well, maybe it's just my personal experience with that brand or a certain line. And then over time that has changed. It's gotten better or it's gotten worse. And then I get burnt on, some of the things that are going out there. So my reputation ends up having to be on the line every so often. But, speaking specifically to GE, the irony about asking about concerning GE is I took a return from a family friend on a washing machine I sold them. They didn't like how it filled, which I normally would not be very happy about taking a return on, but very close family friends. Sometimes there's a reason you don't do business with family. But I was like, fine, I'll take the return. So I asked him, what did you buy? And I was waiting for them to tell me. And they said, GE. So they ended up buying a GE. So I'm asking them a bunch of questions. I'm like, okay, I'm taking the return. I'm taking a little bit of a loss on this, but at least tell me your mindset on why you went with that product. Do you like it versus what I sold you from it was a little bit older model unit? Like, oh yeah, I love it. But it's really a lot of it's just a challenge of finding what is best for consumers, and it varies from one person to another. It's hard sometimes to go out there and say, "Oh, yeah, if you want the best, go with Speed Queen." Let's say, a lot of people in the insiders vouch for Speed Queen specifically, but I find so many cases where that may not be the case because, well, if you don't have $1,399 right now, you're locked out of a washing machine. And if you're a single mom or something, that's not an acceptable answer. I can't tell my viewers to just stop being poor. But so that's why you have to come out with a lot of different ideas and models. So yeah, I appreciated your comment, Nomad. Any other comments from the feed that you're seeing, Scott or Matt, that you want to start hammering out with?
Well, would you say that shopping by features is the way to do it now? Because that's kind of the way that I was deciphering what you just said, Ben. Is that what you recommend, Matt?
I mean, for me, yes. You buy the thing that has the features that actually make sense for you. There's no point in trying to overanalyze this idea of reliability because it's all perceptual, and it's all statistically mediated. There's no guarantee that just because a brand seems reliable on the surface, that the individual product that ends up in your home is going to be reliable. So it's more important that you buy based on the features that you're actually going to make use of and that make sense for you versus buying based on perceived reliability. Like, I used to have people come into the store all the time to tell me, I just want the most basic, simple, cheapest washing machine you have. I want that $2.99 a Mana over there. And then they would tell me that there's 5 people living in the house and they do laundry 5 times a day on the
That cheap
weekends.
washer just got really expensive.
Yep, because it's either going to turn into a series of frequent repair calls
Mhm.
or it's going to turn into a series of new washing machines. And
Or you can use
that's
bounce begon to keep that thing running forever. Shameless plug.
I don't think the suspension rods are going to be the problem with that because, I used to have that struggle all the time with people about understanding their actual capacity needs. And like, I'm sorry, but I have a hard time selling somebody a machine that wasn't rated to handle more than 10 pounds, 11 pounds of laundry for a family of 5. Like, it just doesn't feel good because I know I'm going to see them again in a year or two to buy a new machine because it's not worth fixing that thing. And it won't be the rods that die. It'll be everything else that dies.
Yeah. I mean, on that point, I mean, you have Nomad out here who dropped a lot of questions in there. Keep that rolling.
Yeah.
But he asked, what do you guys think of GE Hotpoint top loaders? Do you
Yeah.
agree that they are bad units? Agree with who? Who's saying that? But they are so loud and cheaply made. Like, if in my experience, if you get under the hood of, generically speaking, GE top load washers, they're very similar to Whirlpool, but they have vast improvements across the board. I really like the way that their gear cases are set up. If you open those gear cases up, which we have done, the wheels, the cogs inside of the gear case are heavier duty. They use a better grease. The bearings are sealed. Just all across the board, I think GE is a really, really good top load washer. And I just went against everything I just said. It was like, it's model specific. But yeah, I like GE for top load washers in general, but
Yes.
definitely.
Well, and one of the other comments that was there was from Kazar asked, "What do you think about the newer LG top loads? What do you think of LG, Matt?"
I think LG is probably one of the best brands you can buy in laundry because they've done an amazing job at balancing performance and price. And just to kind of crib off of that, there was a comment in there, I forget who made it, about the unbalance error, the dreaded UE error that occurs with all impeller top load machines. And I just want to make the statement that comes from sales errors. When you are shopping for a machine, if a salesperson does not ask you, how do you do laundry, and really drill down in how you're going to use the machine, you may end up in a situation where your machine is constantly throwing you errors. It has to do with usage. It doesn't have to do with design. So like an impeller top loading machine, if you're throwing small loads of laundry or you're throwing lots of bulky things into your top loading washing machine, you are going to very frequently encounter UE errors. It's just the nature of the appliance. It's designed to take what's on the bottom, push it to the top, pull what's on the top, push it down to the bottom. It is not going to be able to do that effectively if you have bulky things mixed with light things. It's not going to be able to do that if you have 5 items total in the machine. It's going to be a continual struggle where the machine's not going to want to complete a spin cycle. It's going to add some water, try to push it around, and you're going to end up with sopping wet clothes after 2.5 hours of it messing around trying to save itself. That's where, when you're shopping, if you're somebody that loads the machine fully every single time and you stratify by density of fabric, an impeller top loader is going to give you a lot more capacity and a lot more usability. If you're somebody that instead separates lights from darks, colors from whites, you separate jeans
Small
from everything
loads.
else, you do small loads where you've separated fabric types and you don't have the density to fill a 5 cubic foot impeller top loader, you should be buying an agitator machine because it will stay on balance far better.
Which 5 cubic feet is massive. Like these washers that are out right now are insane how big they are.
Yes.
Like it's nuts. That you know what's interesting? Ben, maybe you want to jump on this one. Ken just asked, I have several bad whirlpool boards now with the pump keeps running error.
Let me see. I'm trying to find
that's a
that.
hot topic, Mr. Ben.
Ken, if you only knew. I hope Ken's still here. I literally stopped filming the repair video for your problem to come and join this and start the live stream. I know as much as there is to know on that issue, I think, because Scott has donated boards to my company to try to figure the issue out. Going back to that question so I can kind of lock in. If anyone's watching the 88 some people that are watching this, there are a very large number of units right now out there that are Whirlpool top load washing machines that are just going to run constantly. It keeps running. I've made videos on it years ago. And now that video that I have that kind of talks about this issue is just blowing up. I'm getting 15, 20,000 views on that video every month for like one repair video on like a very niche issues a lot. So what's going on with that problem, Ken, is that it's an overflood control command that's going to your control board on your top load Whirlpool or Whirlpool subset washing machine, and it's causing it to run constantly. Not common, but it's happened before in the past because the machine thinks that it's overfilled, it's falling out with water. You got to do something. It's trying to drain the water out, but the problem is that the pressure switch on the machine is broken. The pressure switch on your Whirlpool washing machine is not feeding the right information to the CPU, and it's constantly running. And what we have found in our research of that problem is the pressure sensor is bad. The problem is that since the pressure switch is bad, that is integrated and flowed into the board to where there is no necessary easy fix to solve that. Speak of the devil. I have a pressure sensor. Yeah, I got one right beside my desk.
What's it called?
It's technically a pressure transducer. And this is kind of where the appliance industry I'm not happy with is that some companies will put their pressure sensors on the board. Not all do, but quite a few do. Cost-cutting mechanism. There used to be back in the day, a pressure sensor that would have a diaphragm, a dial, you dial in what you want. Now everything's auto-loading, so they usually have their own independent sensors that are on the board. Let's see if I don't know if this will work. there is the inner workings of what's causing every single one of those to fail. And I know this is not going to do it justice, but in the very middle of that is a piezoelectric diaphragm. What happens is air pressure from your from your tub pushes down. It pushes this plate. It changes the voltage to tell your washing machine, okay, there's air now on this pressure plate. It changes that voltage, so the computer says, oh, it's full, or oh, it's not full. And what is happening is the voltage that is supposed to go to the board is not going to the board in the proper number. So it's constantly trying to run the drain pump, and it never satisfies that command because the sensor's broken. The temporary DIY fix for that I will have out in a video is to flush that with a electrical contact cleaner or 99% isopropyl alcohol and massage that media into the diaphragm to remove whatever's in it. The problem is everything we can tell, it's a very temporary fix. It's not something I suggest over the long term. It's something that will get your washing machine running for, 10 washes of clothes. But you really, to fix it, you either have to replace the board or the pressure sensor. The controversy, I would say, is we just went and replaced a pressure sensor on a board that we thought was, from a brand new machine, and the pressure sensor had already been noodled with by someone else. And I don't want to go in too far on who I think could have done that, but it's the pressure sensor is bad. It's one of those things that's from the appliance industry that, for a $500 or $600 machine, you're maybe not going to get a standalone pressure sensor that is extremely reliable for a very long period of time. So, but it's a big problem. Something's happened that's caused this major fail where it's consistent over many appliances. And I can only hope that they, figure this out in some way in the near future.
Well,
So
what other questions have we got in here? Anybody see anything?
I saw that super chat about a GE micro wall combo, and I kind of want to jump into that a little bit from two different perspectives. So micro wall combos are cool appliances, right? It's one electrical connection, feeds the microwave and the wall oven, unified controls, so one control panel for both appliances. It's a cool product that fits into one cutout. Downside, if the microwave dies or the board dies, they're both pretty much toast. I have never seen it be financially worthwhile to invest in repairing the microwave portion of a micro wall combo. I've had customers call out for service on them, and it's never worked out well because either we do fix it and it doesn't stick, or we can't fix it anymore. And I noticed in the super chat, the individual had mentioned the age of the appliance being 2003 as the manufacture date. I can't see that being worthwhile. I think the best advice I could give that person is to very carefully evaluate a replacement. And for anybody that's redoing their kitchen or planning a renovation, it's always in your best interest from a reliability perspective to purchase a separate built-in microwave and a separate single wall oven versus trying to go the combo route. Yes, it's going to add cost to your project. Yes, it's going to be a more expensive solution, but you will thank yourself in the long run for being able to have one work if the other doesn't. The other big thing is power quality. One of the biggest killers of microwaves is power quality issues, and they're very sensitive appliances to that. And I always recommend in the installation of a micro wall combo, if you're going to go that route, or a built-in microwave or a wall oven, they make direct wire surge protectors that are designed for 240 volt appliances. I would highly recommend installing one in the course of installing your wall oven or your micro wall combo.
Also, if you have a microwave, do not open it while it's running. So you have contactors inside there. When you open it, it sparks every time that you open that, or at least the ones that I've seen, they spark whenever you open up you release the door switch of it. And every time that it sparks, it's charring. It's leaving behind a little bit of that sparky char. And that builds up over time, and that kills the contactor, the door switch. So do not open, just poke stop, and then open the door of your microwave. That's like one of the number one issues. I think I say that out loud, but I think I've replaced my own microwave like 2 or 3 times, and was the root cause of it. And so don't be like me. Don't open the microwave when it's running.
I have got my children, my 2 oldest children, 8 and 13, to be very fearful of ever trying to open the microwave door while it's still running. I have put the fear of God into them about that because they understand how contactors work.
Yep. There was another comment in here that was pretty cool about, they were asking about, I can't find it. Man, you got a lot of questions. Keep dropping them. That's awesome. But there was a question in here. Someone had asked about bespoke refrigerators and GE profile refrigerators.
Yep.
I feel like Ben is the master of bespoke. Ben, why don't you dive into that?
So I would say, and I put out a YouTube short very recently about my top French door units, my opinion, and I want to get Matt's on this as well. But if someone was asking me what my top 3 favorite refrigerators are right now, this is not in any specific order, because I think that, coming at it and say, oh, this is the number one, it tends to get people burnt because you think number one's way better than number 2 when it's not. I think that the GE profile, what would it be, the PNE 27J, and then your Samsung RF30 BB 6600, I think those are probably my 2 favorite French door refrigerators right now. I like the GE if I was absolutely being forced to have indoor water and ice. I think indoor water and ice is the devil, but GE is licensing LG's technology for indoor water and ice. So it's encapsulated inside the door. It's not going to play havoc with your chassis of the refrigerator in the refrigerator cabinet, which that's always where I always hate it for reliability. You have all this area for air to seep in from the outside into your ice box, and at least with the LG, it's slightly better. But I still don't like it. With Samsung Bespoke, they have no indoor water and ice because they've made so many people unhappy with the failures of the Ice Master ice system. I made tons of money off that, so I didn't mind it. But from a reliability standpoint, it was not a good idea. Both of them, I think, are relatively reliable to current production 2025 standards.
That's a great way to put it.
Neither unit is going to be as good as the same thing from either brand, say, in 2005. We are in the territory of R600 refrigerant. That is a totally different beast than anything we've had before. So all the companies are having to really figure quality control out on it. So that makes me suspect of companies that haven't dealt with R600 as much. That's one of the reasons I really like the Samsung Bespoke, is Samsung has to comply with overseas regulations in countries in Asia and Europe that have had R600 much longer than we have in the United States. I think that gives them a home field advantage in terms of reliability, despite the fact it's Samsung, that makes it one of my top 3. The other number 3 would be an LG Max Depth without indoor water and ice. It uses a BMH 1304 compressor. It's not the linear inverter smart compressor, whatever nomenclature you want to have with it. LG, I think, has the most reliable refrigerator if it wasn't for the compressor. So that's my 3. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, I've got 2 different ways to look at this because I went through so much refrigerator drama in my own personal life in the preceding 5 years. I had a KRFC 704 KitchenAid counter depth French door refrigerator. That thing was a nightmare. It
wiring
had
harness in the cabinet.
It was worse than that. I had the first problem we had with it was the wiring harness, and then the blower fan in the freezer, and then the ice maker twice, and then the evaporator in the freezer finally sprung a leak, and then it was just declared dead. And I had an extended warranty, so I got it replaced. And I thought, Well, I'm surprised. I thought KitchenAid was reliable. So I bought a Bosch with my replacement money, and that turned out to be an epic failure. That made it less time than the KitchenAid did in my house. That was promptly replaced with a Samsung Bespoke because I just decided, you know what? If it's all terrible, I might as well get the thing I actually want because I love every design feature of the Bespoke.
Yeah,
I
they're
like the
cool.
fact that it is really engineered to be fixable. I like that the ice maker is where it belongs in the freezer. I like that it looked great and it had the water dispenser and automatically refilling water pitcher in a nice, convenient compartment in the refrigerator. Loved the middle drawer. And honestly, that thing made it 3 years with no issues. And it completely shifted my perspective on Samsung as a manufacturer and as a product because I think Samsung as a brand does more to own their mistakes than pretty much anybody else out there. They're very public when they screw up, and they own it pretty well. At least in my experience, when they do something wrong, they do tend to make up for it better than at least some of the other manufacturers that I've dealt with.
Well, that pitcher. So we have a Bespoke in our break room here, and that auto filling pitcher has changed my view on how we use dispensers. Like in our house, we have a what do we have? We have an LG. We have the LG with the craft ice down in the freezer. That's pretty cool, by the way. Having the little ice balls are like that big. But the pitcher, and now they're putting it in multiple different brands, not just not just Samsung's. I think GE has one too. But theirs has a little spigot on the outside, so you don't have to actually remove the pitcher. But like I can with the Samsung pitcher thing, I can fill this up in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Same with the GE one. GE Cafe, those things just look cool. Like just in general, like the inside LED light panel.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like a showpiece. I was watching someone's video that they posted on, and actually had 3 million views, and it was a reel of them receiving a GE Cafe refrigerator and like taking off the plastic and stuff. Really cool video. But there was the light panel that they had on the back just looked really cool. So like from a reliability standpoint, I have no idea. I've never had one of those appliances. Our break room fridge is doing fine, but cool features, and they look really cool.
Yeah. So here's a comment that I want to read, and I don't know if this is one for me, Matt, or Scott, but BMac was asking about the cleaning effectiveness of a Speed Queen TR7 versus a TC5. If you've never seen a TR7 versus a TC5, it goes back to that conversation we had a little bit earlier. They're two totally different transmission systems. But do you have any thoughts on that, Matt?
I don't like top loaders. That is my thought.
You know, that I hate to say it, but that was going to be my comment too, is when we're talking cleaning efficiency and effectiveness, to me the conversation I would want to have isn't the TR7 versus the TC5. It's going to be the TC5 versus the FF7. I have the video on that, where I took my TC5 that I paid a lot of money for and ran it against my FF7, which is the most expensive American washing machine that you can get on the market. And the FF7, in my experience, and I have the soil data to prove it, it clobbered the TC5 because of the capacity, because the capacity versus the time was in the FF7's favor. The nice thing about front loads is there's no agitator that takes up extra space. It did take more time to run, but since the capacity was so much larger, they ended up evening out, while the efficiency on the front loader was significantly better. Um, I think that if it would come to the TR7, which has an inverter motor on it, versus the more classical TC5, it's going to be probably time versus efficiency. The TR series is going to be a little bit more efficient. It's also going to be a bit quieter. but it's time versus efficiency. The TC5 is one of the few units out there that's just going to clean like an old school washer, but is that always the best case for appliances? And that's something that we've talked about on the Appliances Unboxed podcast at length. I think we have we have an hour long discussion just on agitation styles.
At least.
At least one.
Here's another comment that strikes a note with me. Silva threw out there like the Galaxy Note 7, right? Whenever we were talking about Samsungs, I had that phone. Whenever it came out, and that was the exploding phones, right? Do I have the right one? Was that the Note
Yeah,
7?
the batteries would swell up and burst and
It
catch
wouldn't
on
let you on
fire.
planes with it. So like I
Nope.
held on to that phone as long as I possibly could until they actually put like some update on it that made it start to slow down over time. But my plan was to hold on to that phone as long as I could. It was cool. It was fast. It was huge. Had a little marker thing on it. So yeah, I like that phone. I'll take the risk of a bomb phone.
Samsung peaked with the Note 4. That was my I still have a Note 4 somewhere that I want to refurbish because it had the replaceable battery, the expandable SD card. I just wish they'd bring back the Note 4 with modern, with the modern horsepower, but keep the replaceable battery and SD card and everything the same, because that was the best phone. I wore it out. I totally wore it out.
Yeah. Well, I was a fan. I didn't get kicked off any flights, Silva, but I probably wasn't flying anywhere. I don't do anything but work. So,
yeah. Daniel asked if I like LG washers and dryers. Yes, I like LG washers and dryers. When it comes to washing machines, I don't want to always go out and say, "Oh, this is clearly the number one," because then as soon as I say there's a number one, people get mad and say, "Well, I had this bad experience and that bad experience." But in general, I would say of the different makes and models out there, I like LG probably more than any other brand for the price. They all have direct drive motors on them. I think that that's a better way to do your clothes. But people are going to have arguments about it. But I think it's kind of it's a good argument to have because it's LG versus GE versus maybe a few Samsung models for your budget models, and then when you go higher end, say top load, it's your WT8405 versus your TC5 or your WT8600. I think for front loaders, LG makes unequivocally the best front loader on the market that's a residential capacity or residential class unit. All the reviews that I have done, all the tests that I have done, all of the polling and data I did for technicians put LG in a very comfortable spot. That's not to say that the other brands don't have makes and models that are nice. It's just, on average, what am I the most comfortable saying, hey, you should look at buying this, that, 95% of people are going to like, or 98% of people are going to like, versus me saying, I don't know, Whirlpool. And that could be a situation where only 80% of people are going to like that, based on, I'm just throwing numbers out there, but that's the way I look at it.
So let's see. We've got Jeremy Newman. He said, my LG only issue I've had is replacing the balance rods so far. So that's the suspension rods, probably. Top load, probably. Yeah. I've heard great things about LG top load washers and their front loads. What other questions?
I think it's all about buying the machine that makes the most sense. Like, it's so crazy to over index on a specific brand. Like, get the thing that makes sense for you. I don't want to harp on brand or reliability as much as do the features that the appliance has actually line up with how you live and how you're going to use it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's where I come in at asking people questions or try to spur that kind of questioning, because if you're going to do if you have to do a lot of clothes at once, a very small unit overfilled is going to be a horrible experience versus a much larger capacity unit that maybe you have to buy a little bit more bells and whistles to get the larger capacity that maybe instinctively you don't want, but in the end it's going to be better. I have that issue, I guess, with certain Speed Queen, well, all Speed Queens that are top loaders, is you cannot wash a comforter in them. It's not me disliking that brand. It's just physics and math. You can't do it reliably. So if and for maybe 80% of people out there, okay, great. You don't wash a comforter in one. You go to the laundromat and do it. And if that's a constraint, you're going to get something that's going to be very good. You're going to like it a lot. It's going to be simple, and you're going to be happy with it. But it's different strokes for different folks. That's why we run appliance stores rather than Whirlpool fan channels where we dunk on anything that isn't, a 1999 Kenmore 80 series direct drive washing machine, which admittedly that would dunk on everything else out there with good reason, but
at 3.2 cubic feet.
I would strongly disagree with that, but okay.
We did a test, a stain test. You want to tell them about that, Matt? We haven't released that yet. That'll be on the podcast. New Appliance Labs. But
direct drive versus LG all-in-one washer dryer combo, and the direct drive did not show up.
And I'm the direct drive guy. I'm the dude that's my thing. But on a stain test, man, that thing got obliterated. Wasn't even close. It's kind of embarrassing. But we do have we got Gabe in the chat. Gabe is one of our hosts to Appliance Fix and Flip. He's up here in Killeen, Texas, about to move a little bit further north. But he says he personally runs LG laundry and has an LG fridge since 2013. All have been rock stars so far. So 2013 Gabe, LG, that's
if
around
that
compressor age, isn't it?
If Gabe runs a French door LG from 2013, he needs to go play the lotto immediately, because he may be the last man in America that has one that still works.
Hey, their current ones, their refrigerators now are awesome.
Yeah, they're much improved. They figured out that the contactors or whatever. Well, it was the valve. The valves weren't sized for 134. Is what I heard in the room.
In the compressor itself?
Yeah, so the most plausible idea I have heard on the LG compressor fiasco is that when LG spec'd it, they spec'd it for the world market for R600, which is isobutane, which is the European standard, which is the Korean, everybody but America standard. R600 is lower pressure than what we used in America at the time, which is R134A. And because they used a different refrigerant in the American compressors, the head pressure on the valve, the inlet valve for the refrigerant, was under-spec'd specifically for the American market. I find this plausible because you don't hear about linear compressor issues anywhere else outside of the United States and Canada. And then we were the only two countries that happened to use 134 when they released the linear compressor. At least that's what I've heard. I think that's the most plausible. And now, years afterwards, we don't really hear necessarily about that problem as much. It's other issues here and there with LG fridges, which still exist to some degree, but not in the way that the linear compressor issue was, where I had heard failure rates that were high double digits.
Yeah. Have you ever cut a compressor open, seen the inside of it?
No, but I have an LG. I've cut filter dryers and a few other things apart, but I do have a LG linear system outside the door of my trailer that I just got to pull the compressor off of to do specifically that, for a video specifically on if it makes sense to buy LG anymore. I just have more ideas than I have time.
It's cool to see how it works. It's remarkably simple inside of it. You think it's this very complex thing. It's very simple. So it's crazy to see that, you have one product line 10 years ago that did so poorly because it's such a simple thing inside of there.
Mm.
Well, we've talked a lot about durability and stuff like that. It seems like a very hot topic, but like what, like just in general, like let's just talk top load laundry for a second, Matt. Top load laundry.
Ugh.
Just
All
what
right,
are some
Grandma.
cool things that are out there, just feature wise? Like what's cool? Maybe it breaks, I don't know, but what's cool out there in the world in top load laundry?
I
Just from a high
love the new
level.
LG top load design. I like that the drum is lower to the ground. I like that you can get in and out of such a large drum comfortably. Samsung was the first to do like these really large tub sizes in top load laundry. But I mean, when I used to show customers top loaders, you know, a Samsung for somebody that's 5'4" is basically unusable because it's
Yeah.
so deep. Um, I really love the new LG machines because it's very easy to reach the back, even if you are a shorter person. It's very comfortable to use. And I love the 8600 with AI wash and auto dispense. Those are two features that I really, really, really care about in laundry at this point.
Those LG washers that you're describing also look like they came off the set of Star Wars. Like they are like radically, they look radically different than a lot of other washer dryers. So if you have if your laundry room somewhere where other people can see it's a showpiece, like that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Never thought you'd show off your washer dryer. But
Okay,
what
so
else?
we
Go ahead.
have a really good comment that Matt needs to answer. It's from Mr. Truino, and it says, "Greeting from the land of Miele, Bosch, and AEG Electrolux. Nearly midnight here. Miele has declined a lot in quality over the past 3 years. I don't recommend them anymore." What do you think about European laundry, Mr. Matt?
Oh, that's fun because it's completely different than how we conceptualize laundry in America. You're dealing with appliances that are designed for small spaces. The vast majority of life in Europe is apartment living and in small houses. You're not talking about these 3,000 square foot, 4 bedroom homes. That's relatively uncommon. From my perspective, I actually like a lot of the European machines. I think they do things differently, but in a good way. I'm a particular fan of the ASCO machines. I think they have some solid design innovations that really set them apart, and they have amazing laundry handling capacity. Their top end machine can handle 26 and a half pounds of dry laundry. If you stack that up against a TC5, how did that do with 18 pounds, Ben? I forget.
Blew the machine up.
Yeah. Even their lowest end machine can handle 17.6 in a compact 24-inch front loader. That is more dry weight than a king size comforter. What makes them unique, though, is their ability to heat the water coming in and keep it hot throughout the entire cycle. And I think that's the biggest miss on American laundry. And it's not something manufacturers can control because we don't run on 240 volts for our domestic appliances, with certain exceptions. The ASCO machines plug into the dryer, and so they have a 240 volt supply, so they have the ability to heat and keep the machine hot throughout the cycle. The other thing that I really love about the ASCO machines is that they don't have a rubber gasket. They don't have the bellow housing that you see in all of these front loaders. So there's really nowhere for mold or mildew to really accumulate the way it can in other front loaders.
Yeah, it's interesting because behind the scenes, I am trying to convince someone to send me some ASCO laundry because I love the idea that it's 240 volts. If you go to my brother's laundromat, the standard in a commercial setting, and even in America, is 240 volts. But you go residential, and it doesn't exist for washing machines. But with the ASCO that we've talked about a little bit, it has that dongle that takes the electric from the wall into the dryer and then in from the dryer into the washing machine, right, Matt?
Yep. And Bosch does the same thing. And no, actually, I'm sorry. Miele does not do that in the US any longer. Their washer dryer are both actually 120 volt because they
Yeah.
run heat pump only for the dryer.
Mhm.
But Bosch does, right?
Bosch does still, yes.
Yeah. So he did. Mr. Trevino did say definitely Bosch is his recommendation. Best mix of reliability, spare party prices, and availability in stores.
Yeah. And the thing that I would comment about that, the one bad thing about like the American market versus the European market and the European market versus the American market is whether or not you have support for that appliance. In Europe, you probably have way more Bosch service centers than you do in America, or Miele, or what different brands. Each brand can be country specific or even region specific, to where in America, I would love to say, hey, if we had the same level of support for Bosch that they do in Ireland, it would be almost a no brainer to suggest that over some of the other machines that we do on this channel. But the issue always is, or the challenge is, if something breaks, can you fix it, or are you just going to have to throw it out and be another dissatisfied customer?
Well, we just had Max Yang say that he's got an Electrolux, the EFLW 317 TIW set, which was his first front loader set, Matt. And it's been running 9 years already, and it's still running without any issues. In his personal opinion, he thinks it's very durable.
I think
What do you
front
think about
loaders in
Electrolux?
general are way more durable than anybody wants to give them credit for.
Yeah.
I think they can be. It just depends on the situation and the scenario. Um, doing proper use. I think really the biggest thing about front loads is it's the use and care that people don't do, is that they are more maintenance intensive than a top load washing machine, at least in general. If you don't treat them right, they will have problems, I think, a little bit more because of the gasket with the mold issues, maybe with the spider brackets in the back failing because the brackets aren't being cleaned, and you get detergent or, God forbid, fabric softener on them that love to just eat away at things. I got to ask the engineering person I know that works at Samsung and just see if I can get off the record answering and be like, is that why all the Samsung brackets failed and you guys are so notorious for it, or is it something else?
Have you tried anything on GE's new seal? What's it called? The blue
Microban.
Microban. Have you tried out Microban? You tried to grow a petri dish on it?
No, I haven't tried like any sort of specific stress test to it, but we have refurbished quite a few of their GFW series washing machines. And at least I would say pound for pound against any of the other brands, the microban technology at least seems to have worked from my experience with it. I think it's a good idea. I think if there's anything that they can do to mitigate mold issues, it's going to be a good thing, whether that is your ultra fresh door system, whether that's a combo unit that is running a heat cycle to dry the water out, whatever sort of remediation technologies are out there that reduce the maintenance on that, I think is a good thing. Like Matt said, with ASCO, they just have the stainless steel door, a stainless
There's
steel
no
door
boot.
seal. No, and the crazy thing is, if I go look at, say, a white Westinghouse front load washing machine from 1953, guess what? Same idea. It was all stainless steel, and it's the irony is the moldy problems only appeared when rubber appeared in 1997 when you had the Maytag Neptune.
So where was Microban used before? Like they didn't come up with it to put it in a front load washer, right? Like where did it come
No.
from? That?
It's made by a chemical company, and it's a plastic resin additive that's been used all over everything, from additives for plastics for phone cases to additives for surgical instruments and surgical surfaces. I mean, if it can keep surgical surfaces in an operating room sterile or sanitary, it could probably do a pretty good job keeping your washer sanitary, but it's also not perfect. So I have definitely seen mildew formation on a microban seal. What causes it is chronic overuse of fabric softener and detergent. It will be inhibited, it will be slowed, it will take a long time for that to develop, but it can still happen because what eventually occurs when you chronically overuse laundry products is you build up a greasy film
Yep.
of what is essentially bacteria food and mold food. Um, all fabric softener is chemically modified fat. So it's very microbiologically active. It can be degraded by mold and turned into food. Same thing with modern detergents. Modern detergents aren't working through chemical action. It's not like the old days where they were packed full of phosphates to dissolve soils in the water. They're enzymatic, they're proteins. And like all proteins, they can be degraded and used as an energy source for mold and mildew. So when it comes to preserving the life of your washer, whether it's a top loader or a front loader, it's really important to pay close attention to how much you're using when it comes to detergent and softener. And that's why I'm such a huge proponent of auto dispensing systems, because it takes the guesswork out of laundry. It makes it easier for you to just get your laundry done. And it forces you to not have to worry about, am I overusing? Am I not overusing? Where am I at on the usage spectrum? The other thing is self-cleaning cycles are huge. You have to use self-cleaning cycles.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need any of these fancy chemical additives. You don't need active tablets. You don't need a fresh. It's all marketing. You can accomplish a whole lot with a quarter cup of bleach or a quarter cup of vinegar if you're in a hard water market. The other thing that I've saw that's really cool is the results that you get from using Procter and Gamble's got it under a couple different names. Rinse and Renew under the Downy name, Clean Boost under the Tide name. But it does an amazing job if you're in a hard water market of getting rid of hard water deposits in the machine and keeping it running well in the long run. They did some internal testing, and I got to see some of that data and see the end result of washing with it consistently. And it's amazing how little buildup forms when you use that stuff consistently instead of fabric softener. And it actually does soften your clothes well, which is honestly pretty cool.
Fabric softener is the root of all evil.
Yep.
Yes, 100%. Same thing with dryer sheets. Hate dryer sheets.
I watched the video that Ben had actually, where you actually showed the inside of a washer that you had. And I've been in the appliance industry for 11 years, 10 years, something, actually longer. But the inside of washing machines, it amazes me. You look at it and you're like, hey, this looks pretty clean. Then you open it up and you look inside and how much buildup can actually be in there from 5 to 10 years worth of use.
Yeah.
If you're not taking that thing apart and cleaning it, I don't know what you could throw at it other than just don't use fabric softener. Like you can take a putty knife and you can just scrape the stuff off the side. I mean, it is nasty.
What scares me as a YouTuber is seeing other YouTubers say, hey guys, I'm taking my washing machine and turning it into a keg. Look at how cool this is. And I'm like, bud, the amount of fabric softener underneath that drum that your whatever's going to taste like is just, it scares me. I remember someone making like a tub full of ramen noodles in one with like hot water.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thinking, either this is the most fake video anyone's ever made, or you're going to die tomorrow, and there's practically no in between from that. But I mean, I was just appalled when I saw that. They never said anything about it on camera, but I'm thinking, dude, that is so sickening, because it was like an older Kenmore Elite, and like I figured out the
20
date
years
code.
old.
Yeah, it was not a new machine when they used it. It probably had been in service for 6 to 8 years, and I'm like, man, there are certain things you can cheat on camera, but you're not going to fool me one way or the other. And
you need a tetanus shot just watching it.
Oh, I had to pray after I watched that one. But there's been multiple of those that I'm just, sometimes I can nerd out when I watch YouTube videos and say, oh yeah, you're using XYZ, You have the Fisher, some people are like, oh, I'm a humble YouTuber. I'm like, no, your monogram in the background says otherwise. I know what that is. Don't lie to me when you're using it, when you have DCS, dude.
Hey, Wes Sanders said you can heat the water in a front load washer or in a front load in a 120 volt washer, no problem. So he's probably referring to steam washers, right? Where they have
Yep.
that built in heater. So that's a really important thing to look for if you're looking for stain removal, if you're looking for that extra deep clean on a lot of different fabrics. If you look for that steam option on any washer, that indicates a built-in water heater on it, and that'll help get the extra oomph that your washer needs.
Absolutely. I think the only caveat to that is it still has to draw in hot water at the beginning. And that's really the differential for a European machine that runs on 220 and an American machine with steam. An American machine with steam still needs to take in a certain amount of hot water heater or hot water from the hot water heater in order to start at a temperature where it can consistently heat the water and keep it at the right temperature throughout the cycle. With machines from Europe, they can, and most of them actually only have cold water connections for this reason. They just take in the cold water, they get it to the right temperature, and they keep it there the whole time.
Supplied by aqueducts.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We also had Ben Cummings. He said, is LG washer and dryer made in the USA?
So there is a factory in Clarksville, Tennessee that LG has that they've poured a lot of money into that does make washing machines. On the side of my computer, I'm typing that your producer, the producer's probably going to have a problem with, but I'm looking it up. There is the factory in Clarksville that does make washing machines, but I couldn't find out what information on exactly which models LG makes in the US. If you're going to a store to look at different LGs, just open up the lid, find the serial number where the make and model is. 95% time on LG units, you're going to be able to find where it's made. LGs are either going to be made in the US, Korea, or Thailand. I don't think I've seen them. I don't think they have any Mexican factories. So you're going to get one of those three places. I know the heat pump systems and the combo units are from Korea, but I think some of their top loaders and some of their front loaders are in fact from the US.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I'm going to stop everyone here and answer my bread and butter question from David Gilpin. What do you recommend to clean a washer tub? I was using Smelly Washer, but they are out of business. Well, David, I'm going to put a link in the chat, and you can buy my own proprietary formula wash balm. We make our own formula at my appliance store to clean out washing machines, assuming I have any in stock that I can sell to you. But we have our own thing that we sell. I did a video many years ago on how you could use citric acid or different things to clean your washing machines out. We've had to run so much of it to clean washing machines out. I just said, forget it. Let's just make our own. But the thing about cleaning technology, like Matt said, is you don't really have to use anything super extensive to clean your washing machine out. Bleach works, vinegar works, citric acid works. I like sodium bicarbonate and sodium percolate. Our wash bomb formula, if you buy it, the ingredients are on it, and it's citric acid, sodium bicarbonate, sodium percolate, and then it has some various enzymatic enzymes in it that are specifically fat-eating enzymes to eat away the fabric softener. It works really well in our experience for doing like what I would call a burn-in to rip out the really bad garbage that is inside a washing machine when we get it used. But the reality is, if you use bleach or vinegar once a month when you get that machine, if you just stay on top of it running that cleaning cycle once a month, you do not need any sort of special formula that is out there, whether it's ours or anyone else's. We just come at it from the perspective that you're probably not using something immediately the correct way. Here's some good stuff if you have to go with something.
Well, what other questions does the interwebs have? What you guys got?
I mean, I like this one from Max that he just dropped in. What's a commercial grade appliance that's made for the house in terms of laundry? I'm going to reiterate that an ASCO laundry pair is probably the most heavy duty thing you could buy that is not a speed queen. I would put them in the exact same category when it comes to design, construction, and overall durability.
I
And in
really
some
like
ways, I think it
GE's.
would do better.
I like GE's top load commercial washer dryer set for the price. I mean, they're pretty hard to beat for the price if you're going top load laundry, which I'm a fan of.
Yeah. For top loads, you essentially get you either have to get the GE GTW 525 ACWB, the Maytag MVWP 4 or 586, or you go with your TC5 TR7. That's all you get. Those are the only four choices you really get for anything out there on the market for top load that's true commercial. For front load, it's a little bit different because in front load, the ironic thing is that front loads where commercial laundry really is because of my brother running a laundromat. My brother, of anybody, he hates front load washing machines more than Matt does because when it comes from a pure dollar cost average to run a washing machine, all you care about is how efficient it is to clean your clothes and how long it lasts. And anybody in the laundromat industry will tell you 100 out of 100 times you want a front load. Different sizes for different constraints, but it's sold out to front loads. The only time they use top load is when they end up losing a customer just because they were so used to top loaders that's all they know. My brother keeps 2 or 3 Speed Queen TC5 similar units just to appease 80-year-old people. But other than that, he's a Dexter guy. He's looking into Laundry Lux or Electrolux, which Lowe's does sell a front load unit called Crossover, which
Mhm.
is from their Laundry Lux line. So that's another commercial coin op choice you have, but I can't speak to how amazing they are or how bad they are. That's another one that I'm interested in trying in the channel at some point because you can go to Lowe's, or I think we have a local place called Big Sandy, and it has the coin machine already on it that you can use just stock on the factory floor that I thought was kind of interesting.
Cool. What other questions we got
We've
here?
indexed so hard on laundry. I was hoping we could like cast a wide net, and we haven't been very successful at doing that.
It's a laundry podcast.
We assure you guys that the content that we filmed is not just all laundry, but I don't know. The algorithm is sending this video to washer and dryer fans a lot.
We've talked about a lot of cool stuff on the Appliances Unboxed podcast, and we'll be releasing those as we get through. Like, what are some of the topics that we talk about? I don't have a list of them offhand, but what are some of the cool
Dishwashing.
stuff? Definitely dishwashing is
Dishwashing
some
is
cool stuff.
huge.
Mhm.
We talked about cooking, which I thought was a really interesting discussion because you really don't get a lot of play on cooking products. I think if you're a consumer trying to shop for a range or a cooktop or a wall oven, it's like,
Yeah.
where do I even start?
Yep.
Um,
Talk some about
it,
ventilation too.
we did talk a lot about ventilation, and that's a really unsung thing. Like, ventilation is so important and it gets so little play.
I've got an over the range microwave at home, and we set off the fire alarm like
Yeah.
weekly.
One of these days we're going to get you a nice shiny Elica hood, Scott.
Someday.
Speaking on stoves, right before I jumped in to do the live stream with everyone, I have a potential sponsorship for Ben's Appliances and Junk in the near future from a overseas stove company that has it looks like a downdraft system on it. It's a luxury stove for just around $3,000 US, and they want me to try it. So I may go down that rabbit hole with that sponsorship. I don't know if there's enough money in the budget to fly Matt to disassemble and, judge it, but I'm kind of interested in looking at it because it seems like it has a lot of features in it that I would like to try. But the built-in fan and filter system I thought was a pretty cool thing that I'm interested in trying because I know of how much Matt has preached about that on the podcast.
Get your smoke pens ready, kids. We're going to have some fun.
Oh, that would be great.
The dishwasher thing, I think, was my favorite, and we've got a really cool test. I can't wait to unveil that. The test that we did on the different dishwashers and which ones won, which surprised me. So just some really cool stuff that we're recording and putting a lot of effort into to cover all aspects of appliances, what to shop for, how to fix them, the durability, the features. There's a lot to this puzzle.
Awesome. Yeah. So I would say that we're getting slowly winding down here. We probably got time for maybe like 5 or 10 minutes more of questions. Any other ones? David said that he has a new Bosch downdraft vent hood with remote blower, replaced a 40-year-old Thermador.
Ooh.
My man's got the setup. Remote blowers are fantastic. It is a great way to get all of that really annoying ventilation noise just completely out of the house. Huge opportunity to make a great investment if you are somebody that has like an open concept kitchen or you entertain a lot and the kitchen's really a gathering spot for people. You will love it. Highly recommend that.
Awesome. Yeah, this is a good question that we need to answer. How many here say stove instead of range?
I had to beat that into my head.
It is a range. It is not a stove.
Yeah, I said stove up until probably 5 years ago. I held out to the bitter end.
Just like it's a display instead of a vignette, Scott.
That is right. It's a display. If it's in my store, it's a display.
The thing that I get to do on that question, Wes, is I get to kind of plead the fifth and say I have to say whatever makes the YouTube algorithm work, which is stove. Because I want more.
See? Yeah. The people are on my side.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I had someone that worked for me that didn't call it a stove or a range. I'm trying to remember what he called it, but it was some old term from like the 1930s that kept throwing me off when he would always refer to
cooker.
Oven range. I need an oven range.
Cooktop. He would always call it a cooktop, but it was not a cooktop. A cooktop is what you drop into your kitchen counter. But this was a freestanding range. And that threw me off.
Yeah, cooktop's a cooktop. You got to have an oven in it, just like what David just said. A range must have the oven attached. His Bosch cooktop is a cooktop. I agree.
Amen. Yeah.
Well, if I could leave anyone with anything that's watching this or going to be watching this, if you're shopping for appliances, do your research before you walk into the door. Stuff like this, channels like this, information that you can gather from your surroundings, like just educate yourself on what's out there and shop on features with what you're actually going to use. Don't just walk into a store and just, get sold something. I mean, that's not what we do. We try and educate and show you what options and features match your lifestyle, but you gotta do the research yourself.
Absolutely. But I want Matt to answer this because he knows more about this. Victoria Chanel said, I'm a professional chef. I have 2 Rational combi ovens. Love them. Had them since 2019 in my work kitchen.
I think this is the same person who had said that their 2003 micro wall combo had bit the bullet, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right on that, Ben?
I can't remember. I'd have to look at the chat logs.
But as far as I'm concerned, I think combi ovens are really cool products. I'm a believer on the residential side in the Advantium ovens. I like the way that they work. I like the finished results that you get from them. Using microwave, halogen light, and convection all at the same time is really it's the fastest way you can cook in your house and actually get results that you can be happy with. Like I've cooked steaks in an Advantium that had actual grill marks and gotten them done in about 8 minutes with no preheat. You can make a lasagna in about 20 minutes with no preheat. It is quite nice. If you are somebody that is always busy, you need to knock stuff out. Again, I would just kind of stick to the same advice I gave before. If you have the possibility, if you're working on remodeling your kitchen, or if you have the space and you're willing to commit to the extra electrical work, separate oven from separate microwave or microwave adjacent appliance. Try as hard as you can to avoid merging them into one unit and work through some level of surge protection, whether it's at the appliance with a direct wire surge protector or a whole home surge protector. It will be a very, very good investment.
Yep. One more question I can answer, anybody can answer. The trouble since we talked ranges and stoves and cooktops, the difference between a drop-in and a slide-in oven or a slide-in range. So the difference between a drop-in and a slide-in is a drop-in, you're literally taking the box and you're dropping it into your where your cabinetry is. Usually you're going to have a 4-inch toe on your cabinetry where you're dropping that range onto. A slide-in is going to be completely freestanding, typically with no backsplash on it, like most traditional ranges, that's going to just slide into the unit or into the cabinetry.
There's all sorts of things out there. Range tops, cooktops, drop-ins, freestanding, slide-ins. There's tons of different things out there.
Yeah, there are the number of there are more different styles of ranges, I think, than any other combination of any appliance out there. The amount of complexity inside cookware is incredible, because I'm looking what the one person said about that combi oven and seeing that they start at about $20,000 and go up to $60,000 just blows my mind. But I know the what was it? The launch stuff we saw at ASTI was about the same price too.
Here's some really cool stuff at that convention, though. The Heston product line was pretty remarkable.
Yep.
200 self-cleans back to back, and it can still work. Can't say that about your Whirlpool.
Yeah, probably not.
Yep. Oh, looks like we lost Scott.
Oh, geez. Oh, there he is. He's alive.
Yeah. I don't know what happened. I don't know if that happened, what or not, but yeah, there you go, Scott. But I do have to get headed out from this. I do want to thank Scott and Matt for coming in on this great discussion. We got a ton of really good questions. Us closing it out now is entirely on me because of some other commitments that popped up at the last minute. Otherwise, we'd go for maybe another 30 minutes. But I think we answered quite a few questions, and keep asking the questions, because if people like this and Scott and Matt want to do it to promote the Appliances Unboxed podcast and the whole gamut of all the other podcasts that are going to be out there, we can do this more in the future. We're going to have links to the podcast everywhere that's going to be peppered as much as possible to get you guys to watch it, because there's so many conversations about appliances that can be had, and no one's having those conversations. And the conversations you end up having are with the salesperson at the big box store, and they don't really know that much. But any last words, Matt and Scott?
For the customer that wanted a recommendation of what to buy for their micro wall combo, Signature Kitchen Suite. It is expensive. I get it. It's pricey, but it has a 3-year warranty with a 5-day repair or replace guarantee. Nobody touches that. And for a product like that, that's protection worth buying. And the performance that you're going to get out of that thing is not going to be equal to what you're getting from your work ovens, but it's going to be pretty darn acceptable.
Well, and I see a lot of questions about tariffs, and that's actually something that we can get into in a next episode that we drop, because that's a long conversation to have, because there's lots of different effects of it. But both of these guys, not necessarily me, but both of these guys have a lot of good information on tariffs and how they're going to potentially impact the appliance industry and how they currently are. So if you guys follow the Appliance Unboxed podcast, we also have 2 other podcasts that we do: Behind the Bargains, which is a business podcast about running an appliance store and the repair industry. And then we also have the Fix and Flip podcast, where it's the entry level to that. It's a side hustle of fixing and repairing appliances to sell. But either way, we have a lot of really cool hosts like Ben, who's the host of Appliances Unboxed. And I guarantee you we cover a wide variety of topics that you guys have right now in one of the channels out there. So search us out there and give us a like and a subscribe and a follow, or whatever it is on whatever platform, and stay in the loop, because we want to go deep on every topic that we can.
Yes.
So
On the tariff thing, do not wait until July 4th. Memorial Day promotions are baked. They're not going to change them at the last minute. July 4th is going to be one of the worst promotional periods for appliances in probably the last 5 years. So if you are in the market to buy an appliance, do not go past Memorial Day.
Unless you shop at New Appliance Outlet in Austin, Texas, where we will have
Well,
a
of
discount.
course.
Yep. Well, thank you guys. We're going to end the stream, and I appreciate everybody that was here. Matt, Scott, it was an honor to do this with you. I appreciate everybody that asked a lot of great questions. Couldn't get to everything, but sometimes you get so many great questions. There's only so much you can do. So we'll close it out this time.